Mike Owens here, and today I'm joined by Smilin Sam Alvey, who this Saturday is back in action versus Michał Oleksiejczuk. Sam, great to sit down and chat. How are things with you today?
Oh, things are doing wonderfully. And hey, I mean, it's good to hear you say his last name. I still wasn't sure how to say it, and I think you've got it.
To be quite honest, I interviewed Modestas Bukauskas prior to his bout with Oleksiejczuk, so I think I got a little bit of practice in before speaking with you.
Okay.
First and foremost, you're obviously it's Wednesday. You're in the fighter hotel. All the prep is underway for fight night, but you're no amateur when it comes to these fight weeks. You've had a lot of them in your time, over 50 professional bouts. What does fight week mean to you? What kind of is your process as you get ready for fight night on Saturday?
I really just relax as much as I can. I play my Nintendo Switch. I watch some movies. I try and work out at least once a day, just a light run kind of thing. I just enjoy the moment. I know someday in my life I won't be able to do this, and I love every second I get to.
As you get older in your MMA career, is that something that you do you kind of cherish these moments a little bit more? I mean, some fighters dislike fight week. Some fighters, I know weight cut isn't a fun thing for anyone, but some fighters don't enjoy fight week the way others do. Do you kind of keep a keen sense of enjoyment throughout your fight week?
You know, from the beginning, when I first started fighting a million years ago, you don't make any money fighting in the younger stage, not until you're in the UFC. But you get to see places, and I've traveled everywhere as a younger pro and as an amateur. I mean, I've been to Russia and Trinidad and Albania, and I just got to see places. So even when I got to the UFC, when they were still taking me places, Fight Week was just a blast. I'd get to the new location and I would just spend a week looking at it. I'd take a week and just enjoy the wherever I am. I mean, most fighters don't do that, and they're gonna regret it later in life. I mean, I've eaten in restaurants all over the world. I have walked on the beaches everywhere. I've seen the people. I've had coffee in coffee shops all over Australia and everywhere else. So it really is the Fight Week it's a good time for me to be able to just get out and see some stuff.
Are you a keen traveler other than fighting? And if so, what's your favorite country outside of the US?
I don't know if I have a favorite country out of the US, but my favorite city to fight in was Mexico City. I've there's few places I've disliked fighting, but Mexico City I got to fight there twice, once against Rashad, once against Alex Nicholson, and it was a cool experience both times.
I can well imagine. Let's talk about your opponent, Oleksiejczuk. Well, first and foremost, what does he do well? And maybe what are some areas where you feel like you've got the advantage over him?
Well, what he does well, he moves a ton. I mean, he's always got that motion. He likes taking the center of the cage and pushing me back. He just is always up and down, and he's not particularly active with his hands. But when he throws them, it's from 0 to 100 real quick. And then that little bit of footwork and motion that he gets working with him it can be hard to overcome. But I've had a good camp, and I'm looking forward to overcoming it.
He's obviously got a winning record in the UFC, but has been stumbles, notably his last fight against Jacoby. Obviously, the submission losses, to the likes of Jimmy Crute and such. What can you kind of take from his previous losses in the company that you feel like you can play out in your fight on Saturday?
Well, the Jimmy Crute one was crazy. Just immediately taking him down and then riding him for 3 minutes until he gets the submission. I didn't expect that because after watching every one of his fights, dude has pretty decent takedown defense. But Jimmy Crute, he had the perfect shot under him, lifted him, dumped him, lifted him, dumped him. I mean, it was like 7 times he took him down in the first 3 minutes. It was kind of cool. So there's always that sitting in the back of my mind. Like, well, maybe I could just Jimmy Crute him. But in all reality, it's probably going to be a stand-up fight. He's, from what I can tell, has never shot. And although I have close to a perfect takedown percentage rate, it's only because I don't shoot much either. It's like I got one on accident once. And so it's probably going to be a stand-up battle. I know I hit harder than he does. I know I move a lot less than he does. So I have to find a way to slow him down.
At your age and at this stage in your career, your skill set is kind of defined, isn't it? Obviously you can build new skills and you can build upon things, but you've essentially got your weapon of, arsenal of weapons, if you like, at this point. So with that being said, how much is a fight camp centered around your skills, and how much is a fight camp centered around your opponent's skills and trying to nullify those?
It's in the margins. It's everything I do is just try and make myself want to react. I mean, I'm not going to learn a new punch. I'm not going to learn a new much of anything. I'm an old dog at this point, but it's in the margins. It's what to do after I punch, what to do just before I punch, how to sneak something in, how to keep my feet moving. I mean, if you want, like I said, I think this is my 82nd fight of all time, and there's footage on me forever. There's a lot of footage on me, so he knows everything I'm capable of, or at least he thinks he does. It's just spending the time to convince myself, to convince my body to naturally to do what it might not want to do.
You mentioned there about the number of fights on your record. Is that maybe the biggest disadvantage for a veteran, that there's so much tape to watch, and that these perhaps fighters who are younger in their career can study you and can really game plan for your skills?
Yeah, if it wasn't for the internet, I would be undefeated, man. Yeah. I always forget the quote, but it was Mike Tyson said something along the lines of, the problem with fighting young bucks is they've got a career's worth of footage on me where I have very little on them. It was essentially that. He said it way more. He said it a little cleaner than I just did, but essentially that's it. He has seen me. I try and find him fighting southpaws. He hasn't fought many. He's fought people who have fought southpaw for a second or a minute in the fight, but not many that are southpaws. Me, I think you watch any fight you want of mine fighting, and I've got a dozen or 2 dozen or 3 dozen fights against southpaws. So he has got all the footage he could possibly need on me. Where he's a younger fighter, has less fights on the internet, and he's a foreign fighter, so it's harder for me to find the footage that there is of him.
Yeah, of course. I'd like to very quickly touch upon this recent run of form that you're on, because I know the current record is 0 wins, 7 losses, and 1 draw in your last 8. So first and foremost, I want to be very respectful about how I asked this, but first and foremost, what has essentially gone wrong over the last couple of years? What do you think has kind of gone wrong in this recent run of form?
All right, so I'll start this by saying none of it's my fault. All of it's the judges.
There is a couple of splits in there, in fairness.
I've been screwed a couple times. Then I got to go and blame your boy Mark Goddard. That rotten jerk cost me 2 fights. So, anyways, I've got a bunch of excuses. But at the end of the day, I didn't win the fights, and I understand. So I got to go out there, and I gotta do what I haven't been doing. I've got to finish fights. I can't let it go to the decision. I can't let it play out. I need to get that killer instinct back in me. Where a few of the fights I've rocked the guy and didn't finish the guy. I need to rock the guy and then finish him.
What losses have been more frustrating? The split decision, very close ones that perhaps could have gone either way, or in some cases probably should have gone your way, or the ones where the opponent has been able to get you out of there inside the distance?
So the Da Un Young fight, that's probably the most frustrating, because I won that fight, and there's not a person on the planet outside of 2 judges that would argue with it. I got a draw, and it's ridiculous. The next one would be the Wellington Turman fight. The dude cheated. I mean, the whole time I still felt I won. Watching it back, I still felt I won, but he's a cheater, and he got rewarded for it. So those two kind of suck. If you're going to beat me in the cage, like Brandon Allen did, it is what it is. He was better than me that round, and it was my mistake. Yeah. So it's really the when it goes to the judges, just knowing that they will get it wrong, whether it's me or anybody else, that's the more frustrating part.
One thing that happens, I think, in MMA at times is once a fighter reaches the later stage of their career, fans seem to like old guy fights, maybe veteran versus veteran. But in your kind of career, what's been interesting is you've kind of, towards this latter stage of this run, for almost young prospect or young contender on the come up. So at this point in your career, do you feel like you're maybe the UFC view you as an elite gatekeeper for these guys on the come up, or is that an unfair statement?
No, 100%. I mean, that there are gatekeepers to the top 10. There are gatekeepers to the top 5, and there's gatekeepers to the UFC. and I have definitely been put into that category of gatekeeper to the UFC. That being said, I feel like I've beaten a lot of these young guys that I was supposed to get demolished by. Ryan Spann's a good example. Don Young's a good example. These guys will go on to be great in the UFC. But they had to get through me first, and they couldn't. So the judges had to give a little boost in the ratings. And nothing. Like I said, I should have finished them. And I'm the type of fighter that I say yes to every fight, to anyone. So I might be fighting these young bucks, and then the untold story is that like all of them were on short notice or no notice. My last fight against Brandon Allen was on 3 days' notice. My fight against Ryan Spann was on about a week's notice. Wellington Turman, I was on my way to the airport when my fight got canceled, and they put me up against. They said, "All right, well, you got to fight this other guy in a week or two." I said, "Okay, let's do it." And I love fighting. I don't care who it's against. I don't care what the odds are or any of that. Just put me in there and let me do what I like to do.
What accomplishments do you have left in your career? Is it a case of, at this point, picking up paychecks, or is there an essential goal that you want to attain prior to signing off? Because you, as I mentioned there, over 50 fights, it's, I don't think I'm remiss to say you're not a million miles away from retirement.
It is not just a paycheck to me. It is a paycheck, but it is not the reason I'm doing this. I enjoy what I do. I have so much more to give to the fans of the sport, and the opportunities I can be there to let the world witness is still ahead of me. So I'm really looking forward to finishing my career, hopefully a decade from now. I think I got another 9 or 10 years left in me. But I would like some epic fights. I would like to go out there and really impress the world and show them what a guy like me can do.
Do you anticipate finishing your career in the UFC, or do other organizations interest you?
I hope I finish my career in the UFC, but all the other organizations that they interest me too. I mean, it's such a good time in MMA. There are so many big promotions, even the bare knuckle, the BKFC and the Eagle FC and the Bellator MMA and the PFL and the ONE FC and the KSW. The list of impressive organizations in the world has never been higher, and they are all just that. They are all very impressive. And me personally, like my dream job, the job I've always wanted that got me into fighting, was the WWE. If ever that could be something that Smilin Sam puts his foot into, that would be a dream come true.
100%. Now, there was at one point in the UFC a kind of unofficial rule that 3 losses maybe meant your contract might be cancelled, if you like, or you might be released from the promotion. With this run that you're on, is there any kind of surprise, and I mean this just respectfully, but any surprise that the UFC have kept you around, or do you think it's a function of the close decision losses that maybe should have gone your way?
Both. It is absolutely surprising that they have not cut me. I truly expected to be cut. I mean, truly expected to be cut after Julian Marquez. And before that, I wouldn't have blamed them if they had, because in the UFC, you have to win. Now the UFC has talked to me. They do realize they kind of back up. So yeah, you won a couple of those fights that you didn't end up winning. But they've also said, listen, you accept everything. You have fought these studs on no notice. You have fought these guys, the future best in the world, without question. You just say yes, and we're going to respect what you've done, and let you fight out your contract.
Some of the fan interaction online when we talk about this latter part of your career, I've seen some people say that they think that you might have dirt on the UFC. As kind of obviously.
I know where Dana's buried the bodies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know where Dana's buried the bodies. It's.
Do you think that the fans kind of respect what you've done in the game? I mean, you hold the record with Donald Cerrone for most fights within the 12-month period. Do you think the fans maybe respect what you've actually done in the sport?
They absolutely have. I mean, for as much trash talk as we get, if you look at the number of likes of the comment, I get far more respect online than I get disrespect. But it's the disrespect that kind of pops out. It's like, hey, you get 1,000 people saying, "Oh, you're great, we love you," and then the one guy says, "Yeah, suck a rock." it's your brain just goes to suck a rock.
Yeah.
Your brain goes to oh god, and that's kind of everyone else too. So it's the MMA community understands what I have done, who I have fought, how I have fought them, for the most part.
Yeah.
But the loudmouth trash talkers are just that, louder and trashier.
100%. I did want to mention, because, you know, anyone who knows Sam Alvey, you know, the nickname kind of speaks for itself whenever we see any interactions with you in terms of post-fight interviews, in terms of interviews in general, or any kind of media attention that you get is generally with a smile on your face. So I'm going to ask you a difficult question. There must be a couple of fighters in the UFC that you dislike. So I'm going to ask you a difficult question of which 3 fighters, if Sam Alvey was greeted by, he maybe wouldn't have a smile on his face.
Shoot, I don't know. The fighters, because I know them all backstage. Well, I don't know. There are so many fighters now. I could shoot. I don't know half of them, but they all seem to know me. So, who if I had to dislike somebody, who would I say I dislike? You know who the obvious answer would be is Sean Strickland, except Sean and I are good buddies and have been for like the last decade. So yeah, he and I we're friends. We talk to each other pretty often, and then train together whenever we can. So it's I don't know if there's somebody I could say I dislike. There are plenty of people I haven't met, and so I haven't had the opportunity to dislike. How about that?
You're certainly on the list for I know Stephen Wonderboy Thompson talked about a nicest motherfucker belt. You're certainly on that list if that belt was ever created. Who else would, if we take rankings out of it in size, who else would be on that list? We've got yourself, we've got Wonderboy. Who else makes the cut?
All right, so you got to put Sage Northcutt on there. He is about the nicest man that's ever been. Mark Munoz, he's another one. He is, if I'm a good dude, Mark Munoz is a saint. And then Raymond Daniels. Raymond Daniels would probably be my third one. I think those 3 are about the nicest people I've ever had the opportunity of competing alongside.
100%. If we turn back the conversation to yourself, we're at the start of August 2022. Sam, what are your goals for the next 12-month period? What would you like to accomplish by the 1st of August 2023?
I want to box Mayweather. No, honestly, I'm so concerned about this fight in 2 days or 3 days from now. That's where my attention is. My biggest goal for 2022 is win my fight in 3 days. After that, it's going to be win my next one. If I can put together a good string of 14 or 15 wins, they can't keep the title out of my hands.
Well, it's fantastic to finally sit down and chat with you. It really means a lot to get some time with you on fight week. And if we don't speak beforehand, then best of luck, and thanks once again for your time.
Hey, I appreciate that, sir. Thank you very much.
Before we finish, Sam, how can people find you on social media? And any sponsors you'd like to plug? The floor is yours for the last word.
Oh, the social media plays. I love it. So TikTok is my jam. I love TikTok. I'm at Smilin Sam, SMILEN SAM. I am very active on that. Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. Twitter sucks, but I'm on it too. And then YouTube. I've got a YouTube channel that I'm starting to take off a little bit. So please help me out. Follow me there. And I love talking to you guys. I mean, any social media that you're following me on, hit me up, and I usually respond.
Make sure to subscribe to the LowKickMMA YouTube channel for all the latest news, event previews, and interviews with some of the biggest stars in MMA.